Hey guys, in a gender inclusive sense, this is Mr. C, a layman, and I wanted to do my issue zero or secret origins for those either watching my videos, following me on my social media, tweets, and so forth, or those taking my course, just to see a little bit background of who I am. I'm a conservative, married, lives in Florida, former teacher of youth, enjoy sparingly non-degen pop culture for the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s, and still enjoys Nintendo for the most part. So, also have dogs, I guess that counts as well. And these are my wide, county famous slides for my secret origin. All right. So, I'm going to do Theo, Pole, and Pop. Theo for theology, Pole for politics, and Pop for pop culture. We'll start with theology, one of the more important things. That is that I am said a conservative Catholic. What does that mean? Ideally, if it was before 1958, I would just say that I'm just a Catholic. However, after 1958 and the death of Pope Pius XII and Vatican II and all that, there's different camps, unfortunately. And while I still attend conservative Novus Ordo, I think my heart and spirit really align with the tradition. So since I'm in both camps, I want to use the word conservative, which Louis Barrecchio uses. I like him, though he uses it in a negative way about those who go to the Novus Ordo, that follow the Vatican, but still go to traditional mass that's associated with the current pope. But anyways, so conservative, I think I'll work fine if I'm always doing a speech and they want to know who I am. I guess I have to explain it, what a conservative is. That's a conservative who likes traditional values. Isn't that what a conservative is? Yeah, but in politics, conservatism really now means whatever the current thing is 10 years back. And I'm like, I don't want to go back so much as I want to move forward. So we look to the back in order to move forward. So return to tradition so we can move to the future. All right, people. So I guess I started taking my faith seriously when I was a teenager, growing up born in the mid 80s, but growing up in the 90s, 2000s, and listening to, I guess, Catholic Answers and Jimmy Akin specifically. His Q&As, I think there was twice a week, so I would go back when they had those archived, those old episodes, and listen to his and subjects that I cared for, and he was a help. Um, However, he's like boomer tier, so that's why I kind of stopped listening to that whole era from early to the mid 2000s. Although he introduced me to Craig Blomberg, FF Bruce, and others in my spiritual journey, so I'm very thankful to him for that. And I guess the ones in red are individuals who are I still follow to this day. Raymond E. Brown and John Mayer were those I followed when I did biblical studies. That's my degree is in biblical studies, and they paid attention to the New Testament and so-called historical Jesus. So for Raymond Brown, his New Testament introduction is great for a secular audience, which still gives due to traditional or moderate Christianity. And his John Mayer, which I still have two of his books, A Marginal Jew, Volume 1. I think deals with the background of Jesus. We can know about him through historical means outside of the church. And I think his whole thing is locked in a room, what would a Catholic, Protestant, Jew, Muslim, and atheist, what if they were in a room, what consensus could they come up with talking about Jesus of Nazareth? Um, his volume 1 and volume 3, I think volume 3 is okay because it deals with people outside of Jesus and what we can know about them historically, using historical sources, I should say. So problematic, but I think I guess I'm still attached to him. Craig Blomberg and N.T. Wright, both Protestants, but they both kind of do the same thing as Meyer, but in a more traditional, Orthodox way. F. Bruce as well. If the New Testament reliable is pretty good. Craig Blomberg, I learned from him. Neither poverty nor riches when it comes to possessions. I think that's the title of his book. Al Mohler from the Southern Baptist Convention. Um, I like his voice. He's really great speaking with, actually. The best thing about him is something I still quote would be that we live in a post Genesis 3 world. We live in a post Genesis 3 world. N.T. Wright, he kind of writes one book and then does like different versions of it. But his books on Jesus and Paul specifically are great. Peter Kreeft, his apologetics, and his C.S. Lewis love, and Tolkien as well, are really awesome. Benedict XVI and Joseph Ratzinger and his focus on the Bible, despite his theology, being, well, I think I have that in a further slide about post 1958 Catholicism we have to be careful with. But yeah, it's still good. C.S. Lewis and his Mere Christianity and his signature classics, which have Screwtape Letters and other documents. I think it's the best book for one person to have. They're only going to have one book, that signature classic, which is a cheat because it's different, like 6 books in one. But and then Scott Hahn for his biblical insights as well as covenant theology specifically. People still shape me and who I still follow from some different perspectives. I think Blomberg's been going off of reservations, though. I think Mr. F. Bruce is deceased, and C.S. Lewis as well, and the Pope Benedict XVI as well. So, all right. Other things, conservative. So, post October 1958, interpretation of skepticism to Catholicism. So I see what's good, what's not, to properly form conscience there. Why I have a conservative outlook. I still want to like to watch out for antiquarianism or archaeologism. I just say those words to see if they come out. Let me try one more time. Antiquarianism and archaeologism, which is the notion or the heresy that just because something is old, that means that was good or it's the best form of it. Like if it's the first mass that Christ did, what is a disciple should be the one that we do. That doesn't take into account the Holy Spirit working in the world today. Although I guess people can blame me of being antiquarianism ist, thinking everything post 1958, but there's issues there. And I think Father Shigada's book, Work of Human Hands, it's a great here in the background here. It's a great look into it. It's also the Octaviani intervention as well. We also have to be careful as a conservative or traditionalist scrupulosity. That is the person who is very picky and very not self-confident about what they do, and they live their life in fear because they don't want to go to hell, or they just they're very I guess that's they think they're guilty of a sin when they're really not. But this guilt can also lead to bad things, and they just don't enjoy life. So there's also a lack of funness or liveliness that I do not like in traditionalism. Maybe it's a stereotype, but it is there. I guess judgmentalism in a sense, but there's factionalism and judgmentalism, I guess. Christ is King, Jesus is Lord. Other statements. Another one is that there's no such thing as a post-apocalyptic world. There's no such thing as a post-apocalyptic movie or world. When the end comes, it comes. There is no other. When Christ comes, the trumpet sound from the east, the world just ends, and then there's a new heavens and a new earth. That's my belief on that. So I don't even get into end of the world eschatology. I'm pro millstone for perverts, pedophiles, murderers, and rapists. Yes, pro millstones. Although that passage is from Jesus talking about hurting little ones. but I extend it out. And I guess I'm less severe than Christ. I just, hanging is fine. Just a quick hanging is fine after a speedy but thorough court proceeding. When somebody's found guilty or somebody does something, it should only be a month. We should aim for it to be like a month before justice is served, and yeah, for justice to be served. Patriarchy and pro-patriarchy and hierarchy, and that is reflected as on earth, on heaven as it is on earth. And in the universe, we live in a post-Genesis world from Albert Mohler, which I mentioned earlier. So yes, I am right wing. I'm still looking for a confident, robust, attractive, and effective party that's able to express these ideas, that knows that their careers are right, that it is very robust intellectually, that it attracts others, and that it is effective. So those things would be something I would look for in a party, or if I was part of a party, like those things to be true morally. I want people to seek the true, the good, and the beautiful, and the just. The true, the good, and the beautiful are transcendentals. And I'd like adding justice in there, although that could also be part of the good and true. But I think that could be a political platform right there, seeking truth, goodness, beauty, and justice. I always, even when I didn't articulate my political beliefs well, I hated political correctness, wokeness, or any people not being sticks in the mud for certain things. So I don't. Yeah, I like to have fun and joke around. So I guess I never silly things like that. Always rubbed me the wrong way. Growing up, I guess my formative years listening to Rush Limbaugh during the George W. Bush re-election um, really got me my bona fides when it comes to that. Then there is Mr. Alex Jones, which I tune into once in a while, but I think he's too. Even he is a gatekeeper. And growing up, or having a better understanding, or Thomas Woods, Pat Buchanan, Clarence Thomas, Thomas Sowell. These are fantastic thinkers, especially Clarence Thomas and Thomas Sowell. These are brilliant men, and yeah. And the only one currently is Tucker Carlson, except less of an Americanist and constitutionalist. I think he still believes in that a little bit too much, but I'm always looking to hear what he has to say. I think he could be a great leader if he chooses to be, despite the Kabbalah bracelet apparently, and his family's ties to not the Swanson um, fortune, but the CIA or FBI, intelligence agencies. I think I wanted to say. We live in a post New Deal, post World War II world. Take that for what I'm saying. The responsibilities and duties to God and neighbor should override to me rights. So I guess I'm down with the liberal democracy framework. However, the natural law manifests itself in whatever culture, as long as it's following God. All truth is God's truth is fine. Although explicitly, it would be great to be a nation that exercises and exclaims Christ's kingship on earth as it is in heaven. So I do believe in elite theory, and populism it could be good, but just because something is popular doesn't mean it's right. So I want good elites. I want a Red Caesar, a philosopher king to rule over as a benign king, a God fearing man. Okay. Yes, a God fearing man. Emphasis on both things. Um, Hierarchy, barriers, and boundaries. Localism, right? Subsidiarity. Start at a local level first. And I'm 51% at least believe that genetics determines an individual as opposed to something being 49% taught or learned. So I am not believing tabula rasa, is it? I'm saying that wrong, but the blank slate theory. Genetics really determine a lot about us, whether it's our health, our outlook, who we are, our consciousness, our roots. I don't want to see and atomized or deracinated individuals. And I want not people not to just have life, but have an abundant life, or life with meaning, not just be sacks of matter, but fulfill their God-given purpose, a purpose-driven life, if you will. All right, this is pop, and I have here some musical artists that I still enjoy. Led Zeppelin, in no particular order, although Led Zeppelin is usually number one. The rest are in no particular order. The Beatles, Oasis, Aerosmith, Prince, Michael Jackson, especially. I think before Bad. I don't. Latter Michael Jackson's not that great. It's okay. Johnny Cash, Jenny Lewis, and Rilo Kiley. I forgot about her, but I did listen to her a lot, and I put her on the other day. And like, oh yeah, I do like her. So, and there are others as well, but those are the main ones. Musical, miscellaneous things I listen to, like when I work. I like classical music or soundtracks, either from video games or movies. Synthwave is pretty cool. I've been listening to that. So, all right, movies. Well, these are some of the movies that I enjoy. Aliens, I think it's number one usually. The rest could be in any order, but I think Aliens is just. Although, funnily enough, Aliens, either the theatrical directors or special edition cut. There's no official best version of that movie yet. The theatrical cut is too short. The special edition is too long, so it has to be like in between. Maybe a special edition that cuts out all the gun turret stuff and the Hadley soap introduction. We don't need that. If it was cut with those two things, it would be a perfect movie. So maybe there's a fan edit I can one day make. But it is my favorite movie. Um, it's almost about regaining a family as well. So The Empire Strikes Back, Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is really a new one since I'm think about it a lot. I remember seeing it in a midnight showing when it came out. So that really came up. A Dark Knight, Blade Runner 2049, and Doctor Sleep. One of the two newer ones there, and really impactful movies. Um, Doctor Sleep because it talks about adrenochrome and just how those social elites, draining and uh, you know, has to do with kind of like child trafficking in a sense, and also overcoming trauma. JFK, I think, is a great conspiracy movie. Gattaca as well, great philosophy movie. You should show it as a teacher. Watched it as a grad student, but also as a teacher, an undergrad student, I should say. LA Confidential is just a great movie overall, and it's like stands out, but out of the other movies. I was once making a list. I'm like, most of my movies are sequels: The Dark Knight, Empire Strikes Back, Aliens, because usually those more top three are all sequels. And then I have some that I mentioned that are not, they're a little bit below the ones I mentioned, but are still, I guess, worth mentioning. So there they are. There's more than that, obviously, and I'm a DC Comics fan. I don't think I mentioned any of the slides, but maybe it'll come up here because of Batman the Animated Series and the subsequent Batman Beyond and Justice League cartoons. I'm a DC fan, or was, basically from the Jeff Johns 2006 Hush. That's with Jim Lee era all the way till Rebirth era. That's 2018, I think. So after that era, I was really involved with that. Always, and also went back to the greatest hits of the 80s, 90s, and before then as well. But I stopped currently, so I don't know what's going on. The real Ghostbusters, I grew up with that, and I still like it. Going back, I love the Halloween episodes still, and I learned who Cthulhu was through the Ghostbusters. First two seasons, they're like 60 or 70 episodes, are the best ones, and that's what I go back to. TMNT. I love the video game. I don't follow that at all anymore. I should have marked that. Although all of these are followings currently, well, to an extent, if they're paused or sodomitical or woke, I stay out of it. But Yeah, like Star Wars is really first 6 episodes, and then maybe most of the Clone Wars or a lot of the Clone Wars, and I guess Mandalorian season 2 and Rogue One are ones that are okay. Um, anyways, Dragon Ball grew up with that. I have a soft spot for GT. GT is like the prequels, Star Wars prequels, and that they have great concepts, but weren't executed to the most perfect way. But The Simpsons, the first 9 seasons, basically, kind of a good marker was when Phil Hartman died. That's when they basically the show, even though it probably died before the seasons, but how good they were. It's basically, I think season 3 to 9 or 8 are the best ones, but I let it slide for season 1 all the way to 9. I think I have all those in DVDs. And then Seinfeld, or very Talmudic, but I guess I I guess Seinfeld and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle are ones that I can maybe go back to, but not something I still watch. But some things still I retain. So okie dokie. Video games and video game systems. I grew up with Windows 95 till I think I got 98 and then Millennium Edition. So games on that like Doom, Quake, Jedi Knight 2, Dark Forces. Um, what is the only games that I can? Yeah, that I played there. I guess it's all first person shooters. Um, and then I'm a Nintendo fan, so I had an NES, all the systems from NES to Wii X, except the Virtual Boy, but that doesn't really count. And then I did not have a Wii U, but I do have a Switch. So that's the one I mainly play currently. I had a Sega Genesis, a Dreamcast, a PS1 and PS2, and then Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance, and then an Xbox 360. The only one I have currently is the Switch, and then a little console that plays retro games from Nintendo all the way till PlayStation 1, but it doesn't play in 64, so basically all those oldies there. And these are some of the games that I like. I should say that I love compilations and collections and anthologies, so I did do a cheat like Super Mario 3D All Stars as Mario 64, but also 2 other games and Super Mario All Stars Plus Super Mario World. That is a cheat. That's like 5 games. Yes, 5 games. So that's okay. I still count it in my book. Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past Redux. That is a fan edit of that game that adds changes Link's hair back to brown. You can Eleanor change items. The game basically how it should have been, and I played that version and I beat that, and it's fantastic. I like fan edits that just fix the game, make it a game like it should be. Breath of the Wild, I like. Zelda Collector's Edition is a cheat. Obviously, it has the first 2 Zelda NES games and then Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Although the best Ocarina of Time currently officially released is the 3D version. Kirby's Dream Collection, Superstar is a great game. Mega Man, I grew up with Mega Man 2, 3, and then I got 1 for NES, and then the rest I played. Oh, and 4, yes, and 4. Um, and the rest I played through official means. As re-releases, I had the Mega Man Anniversary Edition for the GameCube, and but the Legacy collections currently are fantastic. So, and yeah, let me see what else here. Yeah, just some of the video games that I enjoyed. Yeah, and I think I'll end with quotes here. And these are just quotes that I like. The first here from the Bible, um, 1 Corinthians 15. Part of it says, "For I delivered to you as of first importance what I also received, that Christ died for his sins in accordance with the Scriptures, and was buried and raised on the third day in accordance with the Scriptures." And he goes on to say he appeared to Cephas, he appeared to basically 6 individuals, to the 12, to the apostles, and lastly, as one unbecomingly or untimely born, he appeared to Paul. And then he goes on to say, "But if there is no resurrection of the dead, then Christ has not been raised, and then you are still in your sins, and your faith is in vain." So, very important quotes. Um, I love John's quotes that Jesus speaks there, that I came so that you may have life and have it more abundantly, have abundant life. Mark 9 has two passages there about raising the dead and how the apostles could not raise the dead. And the first part is that the Father cried out to Jesus, said that I believe, but help my unbelief. Very interesting. He said that I believe to Jesus, but also says help my unbelief. There's probably a wordplay going on there. Come about different types of believing. Like maybe there's a natural sense of belief that he has, but then he needs that supernatural sense. That would be my guess, based on the context. And then the apostles or disciples who could not exorcise and get rid of cast out the demon, said, why couldn't he do it? And Jesus said that this one could not be cast out except through by prayer and fasting. Fascinating. Prayer and fasting. I think a lot to think about there, about the importance of fasting and prayer. Proverbs 28:1. When I was a teacher, to high school students, I would always quote this. The guilty one flees when no one is after him or pursueth him. Whenever I call on someone who's like, I didn't do it, I would say, well, the guilty one flees when no one pursues, when no one's chasing after him. You have a guilty conscience. I like that quote. Ecclesiastes, for there is a season, a time and purpose for everything under heaven. And the classic Romans 8:28, we know that St. Paul says that we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and to them who are called according to his purpose. And there's an important one as a teacher that I forgot to put here, but it was in James when it talks about that teachers will be judged more harshly. Teachers will be judged more harshly. I forgot that was an important one, so I forgot to add that one in there. And then lastly, these are just quotes that I like. Religious in nature, all truth is God's truth. I think it's a Thomistic saying from Thomas Aquinas. And then we have error has no rights. I say that all the time. They don't, it sounds problematic, but error has no rights. So it can also be a political statement or motto. And then lex orandi, lex credendi. I did not study Latin, but it means the law of prayer is the law of belief. The way you pray, the way you act, the way you present yourself is what you believe as well, and then backwards. So what you say should reflect how you act. How you act should reflect what you say and what you believe. Very important about living authentically. Baltimore Catechism. What did it say? God made us and made me to know, love, and serve him in this world and be happy with him in the next. Our purpose in this life, to know, love, and serve God in this world and be happy with him in the next. Strikingly, the forever in the next life being happy is not guaranteed in this life. And then a quote from C.S. Lewis, which I would say in scripture class, summing up the Old Testament. After the fall, God selected one particular people and spent several centuries hammering into their heads what sort of God that he was, that there was only one of him, and that he cared about right conduct. These people were the Jews, and the Old Testament gives an account of the hammering process. I almost know that one by 99% memory. So, and those are my secret origins to know who I am and what I'm about. I think that's a good idea about who I am. If anything missing from there would be I like to mess around and joke around, be a reply guy, and yeah. Um, so hopefully that gives you an introduction of who I am. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and hopefully you have a great time. And hope to see you through my different avenues and seek the true, the good, and the beautiful. Thank you.